The December cold sliced through my skin like tiny blades. On Main Street in the heart of Avondale, rows of Christmas lights twinkled, reflecting off the thin layer of snow covering the sidewalks. 13-year-old Liam Morgan strolled, clutching a worn brown leather bag to his chest. It looked ordinary, except for one thing. It had belonged to his father. Inside were a few papers, a receipt, a claim slip. All that remained of the last time his father, Matthew Morgan, had sent out a watch to be repaired. It wasn't an expensive watch, no diamonds, no white gold, just an old mechanical timepiece, scratched and faded with age. But to Liam, it was everything. 3 months ago, his father had died in an accident at the watch workshop. A gas tank had exploded while he was working on restoring an antique piece. No warning, no goodbye, no note. But while cleaning out his dust-covered workroom, Liam's mother, Natalie Morgan, had found the bag, and inside it, the receipt from a place called Avalloy Timepieces, a shop known among collectors for dealing only in luxury watches. "You should be the one to pick it up," his mother said, her voice breaking. "It was meant to be your 14th birthday gift. He wanted to give it to you himself." Liam said nothing, just nodded. He was used to silence now, the kind that settled in when the ticking of his father's workshop clock stopped for good. The Avalor shop appeared like another world. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows, black steel signage, and polished white marble floors so pristine they looked untouched. Everything about it said one thing. This place is not for boys in scuffed sneakers and second-hand coats. But Liam stepped in anyway. The glass door rotated with a quiet whoosh, followed by a soft chime, like a private symphony for the elite. No one looked up. No one greeted him. To the right was the reception desk, behind which stood a middle-aged woman in a tailored black suit. Her collar was stiff, her lips a sharp red, and her silver-rimmed glasses turned her gaze to ice. "What do you need?" she asked, voice crisp, lacking any warmth. Liam swallowed and approached, placing the claim slip on the counter. "I'm here to pick up a watch. My dad dropped it off a while ago." She glanced at the paper, then frowned. "Matthew Morgan," she said, skepticism thick in her voice. "This is a high-end establishment, kid. You sure you're not in the wrong place?" The words hit like a punch without a fist. Liam flushed red but nodded. "I'm sure." The woman took the paper and disappeared into the back, whispering something to a young male clerk nearby. Liam remained where he was. People passing by glanced at him, like a stray animal wandering into a Tiffany's store. Their stares mixed curiosity with discomfort and disdain. 10 minutes passed, then 15. No one spoke to him, no one offered a word. Finally, the woman returned and set the paper back on the counter with a deadpan face. "We can't confirm the sender's identity. You can't claim the watch. You'll need to leave. But it's my father's. He already paid for it," Liam said, trying to stay calm, though his heart was pounding. "I've said what I said," she cut him off, her voice cold steel. "No adult, no proper documentation, and frankly, no reason to believe you're related to Matthew Morgan. This isn't a place for unsupervised children." That last line, spoken quietly but loud enough for others nearby to hear, stabbed deeper than anything else. Liam tightened his grip on the leather bag. It felt like every stair in the room pierced through the thin fabric of his coat. What he didn't know was that, at that very moment, his mother, Natalie Morgan, was stepping out of the car parked just outside. And in just a few more minutes a truth would surface that would not only demand an apology, it would force the woman at the counter to bow her head to the very name she had just dismissed. Liam stood there, hand clutched around the strap of his bag, throat dry. A part of him wanted to run. to push through the doors and out into the cold, leaving this place and everything in it behind. But another part, the same part that helped him survive the silence after his father's death, kept his feet firmly planted. "I've made myself clear, young man," said the woman at the desk. Her name tag read Victoria Hayes, store manager. Her voice was louder this time, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "No valid paperwork, no adult present, and most importantly, no reason to believe you're connected to Matthew Morgan. We have standards here. Standards. A word sharp as broken glass." Liam didn't respond. He didn't get the chance. A voice rang out behind him, measured but full of steel. "And what are those standards exactly? Humiliating a child in a cheap coat just because he walked in without his parents." The glass door swung shut behind the woman who had just entered, Natalie Morgan, hair pinned back, light gray cashmere coat. Her eyes were bright, focused, and cold as frost. In her hand was a slim leather briefcase, neatly clasped. She didn't need a name tag. One look, and it was clear. This was a woman who led, who managed, and who did not tolerate injustice. "I'm his mother, and I think we need to talk." The room seemed to shrink. Victoria Hayes straightened reflexively, but her eyes betrayed surprise. "Oh, hello. I didn't realize he was your son." "Of course you didn't," Natalie said, not missing a beat. "Just like you didn't realize Matthew Morgan, the watchmaker you just dismissed, was once awarded Master Restoration Artisan of the Year by Kronberg, the very luxury brand you base your reputation on. 3 months before he died." Liam looked up. His heart surged. His mother wasn't just there to protect him. She was there to defend his father's name. Natalie approached the counter, unlatched her case, and laid out a set of documents: a framed certificate, original receipts, and a thank you letter, signed by Kronberg's CEO. "And this," she added, placing another sheet on the counter, "is the original receipt, signed by your previous store manager, Mr. Landry, the same man who once said, and I quote, 'Matthew Morgan is the only person I trust with my antique timepieces.'" Victoria swallowed hard. The air in the store had shifted. Curious onlookers now stood back, silent, as if witnessing a courtroom reversal. "Ma'am, I apologize if there was a misunderstanding." Natalie raised a hand to stop her. "Don't apologize to me, apologize to my son. He lost his father, and today, when all he wanted was to retrieve the last gift his father left for him, he was humiliated, dismissed, and made to feel like he didn't belong." Victoria's face turned pale. The chill in her expression had vanished. What remained was a woman grasping for dignity in the wake of the collapse. Natalie turned to Liam, her voice softening. "Do you still want the watch, sweetheart?" He nodded slowly. "Then she'll fetch it, personally, and she'll hand it to you, with an apology." Silence fell again. After a long pause, Victoria nodded, then disappeared into the back. When she returned, she was holding a small black leather box, wiped clean, handled with care. She stepped in front of Liam, and for the first time in her 20 years at Avalor Timepieces, Victoria Hayes, store manager, bowed her head. I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan." Liam said nothing. He took the box and slowly opened it. Inside was the watch, old, bronze-toned, the face aged with time, and on the back an engraving, "To Liam, when the time is right." A promise, forgiveness, a beginning. The watch sat heavy in Liam's hand, not because of its metal frame, but because of the memories flooding back like rain on snow. He remembered it now. Last summer, his father bent over his desk for weeks, working meticulously on something. One evening, Matthew handed Liam a mug of cocoa, rested his hand on his shoulder, and said, Liam, there are things in life you can't hold on to forever, like time. But if you know how to honor it, time will give back something even more precious. Memory. He hadn't understood then. He did now. The watch he held was the same one from that summer. Finished in secret. Meant to be his birthday gift. Meant to be given when the time was right. He turned to his mother. "When did you know this watch was meant for me?" Natalie smiled gently. "The moment your father gave me the sketch. He said, 'If Liam ever feels lost after I'm gone, give him this. It's more than a watch, it's a message.'" Liam nodded, heart swelling. He sat on the leather bench and carefully opened the back of the watch. Something only those who understood mechanics would know how to do. Inside was a pristine movement, flawless craftsmanship that had once drawn awe from collectors, and tucked into the space beside the gears, a folded slip of paper. He slid it out. In his father's handwriting, slightly faded, it read, "Son, remember this. People might not see your worth right away, but never doubt it yourself. Let time speak for you. Dad." Liam's hands clenched. A tear slipped from his eye, falling onto the glass face of the watch. Not from weakness, but from the quiet strength that had waited far too long to be released. When he stood, the room fell into reverent silence. No one spoke. No one smiled. Only respect remained. Victoria stood behind the counter, her eyes lowered. She had lost the most valuable currency in her profession: trust. Liam didn't shout, didn't rage. He simply said, in a calm, unwavering voice, "I don't need an apology anymore. What I got today was enough." And without another word, he turned. His mother walked beside him, slow and steady. The glass door turned behind them, closing softly, carrying away the cold and the arrogance this place once stood for. The next morning, high above the city skyline, in a glass-walled boardroom on the 27th floor of the Beaumont and Finch corporate headquarters, tension hung heavy in the air. A sleek conference table stretched down the center of the room, and at its heart lay a single phone, already connected to a scheduled call. On the display, a name appeared in sharp white letters: Dr. Natalie Morgan, Senior Financial Strategist, Tier A stakeholder, and Liam's mother. None of the executives in the room had expected this. Natalie Morgan rarely spoke directly to the board, but when she did, the financial world tended to listen. The call connected. Her voice came through the speaker, crisp, unwavering. "I'll get straight to the point," she began. "Yesterday, my son, 14 years old, walked into your flagship store at Branch 4 to retrieve a watch custom restored by his late father. There, he was dismissed, doubted, and, let's be honest, humiliated by your store manager, Ms. Victoria Hayes." A finance executive quietly closed his folder. A junior associate turned pale and began searching files on his tablet. "I'm not calling to demand an apology," Natalie continued, her tone colder now. "I'm calling to inform you that I am exercising my voting rights tied to the 17% equity I hold in Beaumont and Finch to formally propose a company-wide policy reform focused on client service standards with special emphasis on younger customers and the elimination of all forms of bias, conscious or otherwise." Gasps rippled through the room. What had seemed like a minor incident had just become a system-wide reckoning. A board member cleared his throat. "Dr. Morgan, perhaps if we could review this matter internally before—" "You have 48 hours," she said sharply. "After that, I will release the entire account to the press, and believe me, you don't want that kind of media storm." The line disconnected. Silence followed. No rustling of papers, no shifting in seats, just the sound of an empire realizing it had made a very human mistake. 2 days later, Victoria Hayes was terminated. The official reason listed is professional misconduct. But internal review revealed this wasn't her first offense. At least 3 other young clients had previously reported similar treatment. Dismissed, ignored, quietly pushed aside. Their complaints had been buried. No longer. The board of Beaumont and Finch moved fast. They issued a public statement announcing a landmark customer service reform campaign, Youth Inclusion Initiative, recognizing young clients as future luxury consumers. Bias awareness. Training, mandatory for all retail and management staff. The silent priority policy. Any customer experiencing discrimination would be flagged for immediate personal service and a formal apology by senior staff. But perhaps most striking of all, they unveiled a new internal service philosophy. It bore the name of the man who had once restored timepieces in silence. The Morgan Standard. Every customer is a lifelong relationship. At home, Liam sat in his room, watching a security camera clip his mother had obtained through the formal complaint process. He didn't watch it out of anger. He watched it to understand how big changes can start with the smallest acts. Like a quiet boy walking into a store alone, holding on to his self-worth, and refusing to let go. When the video ended, Liam looked at the watch resting on his desk. Time was still ticking. But now he understood something his father had once tried to teach him. If you live true to your values, time doesn't just pass. It leaves a mark. 3 weeks later, long after the media buzz had cooled, a new article quietly appeared on the official website of Beaumont and Finch. The title read, "The Boy Who Changed Us." It told the story of a 14-year-old boy who had walked into a luxury watch boutique alone, unnoticed, uninvited, and ultimately unwelcome. It told of the quiet strength he showed, the humiliation he endured, and the truth that followed. But most importantly, it acknowledged this. Sometimes the most important revolutions don't begin with shouting. They begin with someone choosing not to leave. Strangely, Liam had no idea the article had been published. On a Monday morning, he was in class at Westridge Academy, scribbling notes on fractions, when his homeroom teacher asked him to step outside. "Liam, someone's here to see you at the front office," she said. "From a watch company?" Confused, Liam grabbed his backpack and made his way down the hall. In the lobby stood a well-dressed middle-aged man in a gray suit. He greeted Liam with a warm smile and extended a hand. "You must be Liam Morgan. I'm Raymond Pierce, Executive Vice President at Beaumont and Finch. We're not here to talk about mistakes. We're here to say thank you." He handed Liam a leather-bound envelope with the company's logo embossed in gold. Inside was a formal invitation. "We'd be honored to have you and your mother speak at the launch event for our new campaign, the Morgan Standard, at our global headquarters next week, if you're willing." Liam stood frozen. Part of him wanted to say no, to stay small, to go home and hide, but another part, the one that had stood quietly at the counter that day, knew. Being heard wasn't about volume. It was about being present. That evening, in a grand glass auditorium at Beaumont's headquarters, Liam stood behind a podium, facing a room filled with executives, journalists, and students invited from public schools across the city. "I didn't think I'd be standing here today," he began, voice slightly shaky. "But if I could share one thing, it's this. Adults need to remember that kindness doesn't have an age limit, and young people deserve to be treated like real customers, not just when they're with their parents." Applause rippled through the crowd. Natalie Morgan sat in the front row, her expression quiet, eyes shining with pride. After the speech, a student from the tough Edge Hill neighborhood approached Liam and shook his hand. I once got turned away from opening a bank account because I didn't look right, but thanks to you, I've been invited to a student finance workshop." Liam blinked. He had never imagined that his small act of standing still could ripple this far. Within a month of the Morgan Standard campaign launch, Liam's name began appearing in educational bulletins, financial youth forums, and leadership features on social media. Not because he was the son of a wealthy woman, not because he had protested loudly, but because he had held his ground, calmly, clearly, and in the right moment. On a Friday afternoon, Liam was invited to speak at a youth leadership event called Voice of Youth, held right in the auditorium of Westridge Academy. When the host called his name, Liam stepped onto the stage, gripping the microphone with slightly clammy hands. His face flushed pink from the spotlight. "I don't think I'm special," he said honestly. "I'm just a regular student, someone who once got dismissed because I didn't look the part. But I've learned this. If you believe in your worth, no one can take it away from you." The room fell silent, not out of awkwardness but respect. Afterward, a group of freshmen came up to him hesitantly. "Liam, do you think we could speak up like that too?" He nodded. "Not like me, but in your way. Just don't stay silent when something's wrong." That night, Liam opened his closet and found an unfamiliar envelope tucked inside. It was from Tom, the sales associate who had stood silently at the counter that day. The letter read, "Liam, I was wrong. Not because I asked for documents, but because I didn't dare to speak up when someone was being treated unfairly. Thank you for not doing what I did. I've resigned, but thanks to you, I now understand what it means to do the right thing." Liam read the letter twice. There was no bitterness in it, only a quiet circle closing, on a note of grace. 3 months later, the luxury watch corporation Beaumont and Finch announced a sweeping internal reform. Unconscious bias training for all employees, from sales associates to upper management. Youth engagement program, assigning student ambassadors to assist and advocate for underage clients. And most notably, the Morgan Principle. Customers are judged by their integrity, not by their appearance. The word Morgan was no longer just a last name. It had become a standard. One late autumn afternoon, Liam sat quietly at his favorite cafe across from the Avalor boutique. He still wore a hoodie, old jeans, and the same vintage watch, despite being able to afford hundreds of new ones now. As he stood to leave, the young barista behind the counter leaned toward her coworker and whispered, "That's him, isn't it?" "Liam Morgan?" "Yeah, the kid who made the whole system change." Across the street, the sign for Beaumont and Finch gleamed faintly in the golden dusk. Once a place that turned away a child, now a place that honors their voices.